take over?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, please.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to the fourth day of IMDI webinar series, along with the virtual medical device manufacturing technology show, the only event for medical disposables and implant industry in India, displaying materials, components, machinery, technologies, and services required for manufacturing medical devices. The medical device industry is expected to grow, get more organized, and live up to the needs of the country in times to come. And this webinar series and virtual technology show is a platform for industry experts to get together and deliberate on the ways to do so. IMDI 2020 conferences are organized by Classic Computer Services, a company providing information resources for medical technology and markets through publications, internet portals, exhibitions, conferences, and market research since last 26 years. The organization designs and develops conference programs aimed at specifically designed or targeted audiences in order to provide strategic and timely information through a production process focused on end user research and design. Our team is able to understand the immediate business concerns of today's leading executives. Keynote presentations, case studies, and panel discussions are delivered by industry leaders with extensive knowledge of their respective sectors and specialties. Exhibitors showcase new developments, technologies, innovations, and services. This webinar series is being held in conjunction with virtual trade show Meditech Expo organized by Radical Communication. Radical Communications has established itself as one of the renowned international exhibition and conference organizers in India and exhibitions in varied uh, exhibition centers in domestic as well as international circuits. Radical Communications, with its experience of more than 10 years in exhibition industry, has partnered and represented India at various global exhibitions that have taken place in different parts of the world. Since last 3 days, we begin our journey discussing various issues and challenges related to medical device industry. Today, we are focusing on the theme medical device industry, standards, certification, and regulations. And we are fortunate to have galaxy of experts with special presence of Dr. V. Somani, Drug Controller General of India, CDS CEO, Mr. Jayanta Roy Chaudhary, Scientist and DDG, Bureau of Indian Standards, Mr. Anil Jhari, ex-CEO, NABCB, to throw light on various aspects of the theme, co-organized by Consultants Consortium of Chennai, Associations of Management Systems Consultants. This association is registered under this consortia is registered under TN Societies Act as an association. It is a platform for management systems consultants and allied consultants. It focuses on knowledge, dissemination to the industry and ongoing basis about standards, certifications, accreditation, and inspections, regulations, etc. This consortia is in the board of NABCB. This event is sponsored by Westro, LDRA, GLR Laboratories Private Limited and is supported by Associations of Medical Device Industry, Association of Diagnostics Manufacturers of India, and many other organizations. Now, I would request Mr. D.L. Pandya, webinar convener and CEO Medical Plastic Data Service, as to welcome all our eminent speakers and delegates of the day. Over to Pandya, sir.
Thank you, Ushaji. Soon to arrive Dr. V. Somani Saab, Mr. Jayant Rao Chaudhary, Sri Anil Jhari Saab, Rajiv Nath ji, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Gupta, Mr. Satyendra, Ms. Rama Venugopal, delegate friends, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all the dignitaries for their kind acceptance to share with us their knowledge and experience and the vision for the benefit of the industry. It is needless to say that the kind support and cooperation from the leaders of this Indian medical device industry, particularly including the government agencies like CDSCO and the BIS, are the backbone of our all activities that we have been doing for last 16 years as this event every year. Friends, today in this webinar, we will be focusing on standards, regulations, and certifications, which are the pillars for making India to take the India to the global position. And through this event, our mission is to create the platform for Indian medical device industry, not only for knowledge sharing and brainstorming, but also to interact with the stakeholders, including the service providers, like the consultants and the regulatory bodies. I would like to make a special mention for the association, the Consultants Consortium of Chennai, for their kind interest and acceptance to join us in this activity for reaching to the medical device industry. I'm not taking much of your time, and I once again welcome and thank all the dignitaries, industry leaders, professionals, sponsors, exhibitors, and last but not the least, all the delegates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pandya sir, for your warm welcome. Without any further delay, now I would request Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Gupta, Managing Consultant, Intrust Consulting, to kindly take the forum further. Over to you, Dr. Sanjeev.
Thank you. Good evening, all the speakers, delegates, and attendees of this wonderful webinar today. And I think we were expecting Dr. Vijay Somani to join this and lead this with his presentation and its sharing of information as a top regulator in the country. And I'm told that there is some delay in his joining, and someone, either him or someone else, will be joining as a speaker from the Central Regulatory Agency. And we'll wait till someone comes, and I would like to introduce. And meanwhile, I'm moving to our first speaker. And I have a pleasure of introducing Mr. Jayant Rai Chaudhary, Scientist G and DDG, Standardization, Products and Methods, Bureau of Indian Standards. He is BE in Civil Engineering and worked as structural engineer in Ghosh, Bose and Associates, Kolkata for years. And in BIS, he's been there for 30 plus years. And I'm told, though I have not had a personal interaction opportunity so far with him, that his contribution is enormous in this direction. And I request Dr. Chaudhary to please give his talk so that all of us can be benefited by that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. I would like to share my screen. Is the screen visible?
And not yet. It takes a bit of time, sir. Yeah.
Is it there now?
It is. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, distinguished panelists. Well, at the outset, I would like to thank IMDI for giving me this opportunity and to be amongst this esteemed group of individuals to share a few thoughts and largely information on what is happening in the standards front. Based on the focus of what is happening or what is emerging out of the standardization work which is happening. Well, we all know that medical devices or the medical device industry is responsible for the design and manufacture of a wide range of products used in diagnosis and in treating illness. And because of this, the medical devices industry, or the medical devices as a whole, are essential tools for healthcare. And as a result, it has direct impact on the health and well-being and on the quality of life of individuals. So their association with the risk involved in the use of medical devices and equipments is of prime consideration when we are talking of medical devices and their standardization. And therefore, the significance of standards is towards the imperative of ensuring that we have safety when we are dealing with various aspects of medical devices. And as a result of having standards, our primary objective is to fulfill the requirements of complying with what is given in the regulations, and simultaneously to ensure that the products that we have, the devices that we have, are safe, reliable, and of good quality, so that we are able to fulfill the ultimate objective of providing the right diagnosis and the right treatment. Well, as far as standards development is concerned at the national level in BIS, as many of you would be aware, that the work happens through technical committees. And in the area of medical devices, we have the entire activity organized under what we call the Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Division Council. And this particular committee, or the council, as I mentioned, comprises of further subordinate committees, which are called the sectional committees, which involves various stakeholders across various interest groups associated with the field. And if I can mention, there are around 650 experts who are involved in this activity of developing standards. And so far, we have around 1,400 standards which have been published. And a large part of these standards, if you would observe from the figures given on the slide, that a large part of these standards are harmonized with what is available at the international arena. That is, they are all aligned with the international standards of ISO and IC. If you look into the areas of standardization, some of these are listed out here, starting from the surgical equipments, the surgical disposable products, to diagnostic equipments, to various verticals of the medical discipline, not to mention of dental equipment, health informatics, which is increasingly a very important area as far as standardization in this field is particularly concerned. Biotechnology and the introduction of nanotechnology in the medical field. So you would find the whole gamut of medical discipline is addressed through various committees in BIS, and involving a wide range of stakeholders. And these are some of the stakeholders which we list out here. If you talk of consumers, we are primarily talking of the hospitals, both in the private and the government hospitals, the doctors and the physicians, who are the actual sort of the users of the standards or the medical devices per se. You have the government and regulators, right from CDSCO to Ministry of Health, ICMR and the others. Industry associations like EMED and the others. You have, of course, the medical devices manufacturers. You have the R&D institutes, you have the testing organizations, testing product organizations. Maybe some of these you could be familiar with, where you would be getting your products tested. And of course, the professional bodies of the field. So this is no different from what happens in other areas. The range of stakeholders, and the range of stakeholders ensures that we have the inputs from the right quarters. It also ensures that we have a balance view and opinion emanating out of the discussions which happens in the technical committees. And we try and have mechanisms through which we ensure that we come out with a document which is impartial, a document which has been well thought out, well debated, and a consensus is built around what is or what should be in that particular document. Just rush through this standards development processes. You would all be aware of. But all I would like to sort of focus upon is that the objective of developing standard is to have a consensus-based document, and the consensus building process is basically twofold. One, which happens within the committee itself, within the experts themselves. They first deliberate and decide on what they feel, in their opinion, should be the best solution to a particular issue, and then it goes for wider consultation in the public domain, seeking public comments, and those views are again deliberated and debated by the experts to see to it that we have a more we have the inputs of a wider community sort of integrated when the document is finally published. The objective being that we have a document which is sort of acceptable and agreeable to the large section of the stakeholders who are involved. And, oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed it out. Anyhow, so to continue with how do we strategize on our way of action, not to mention of medical devices alone, but the entire standardization activities in BIS. About 2.5, 3 years back, we did an extensive exercise of trying to analyze through various socio-economic data and various other inputs, including various stakeholder consultations, as to what approach we need to have. And the result of that sort of exercise was that we came out with a sort of a strategic document which drew from what had been sort of outlined in the Indian National Strategy for Standardization of Ministry of Commerce. Drawing from that and from this exercise, we came out with this document, which is called the Standards National Action Plan. There were 5 basic core objectives which this action plan tried to focus upon, which have been mentioned in this slide. But more importantly, when we are talking of specific areas or specific fields of standardization, this exercise also resulted in identifying certain key standardization areas. And one of those, of course, was healthcare, under which medical devices standardization was applying to. And this entire exercise resulted in these 26 areas of standardization being identified. These were again subcategorized into 66 fields, covering over 176 subjects. And if you talk of medical devices, we also identified around 16 areas in the field of medical devices, which were to be focused upon in the next 3.5 years. And simultaneously, almost simultaneously, we also had this list of commonly procured medical devices, which was shared by Heights with us, and on which we were asked to work upon by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. These 455 commonly used medical devices, we then analyzed and came out with this sort of breakup, where we found that some of these we already had standards published, and in many other areas we were to develop standards, and the current status is like this. But the focus is on the pending or the pending areas where work is yet to happen. And of this, our concern is those of high-risk devices, and these comprise about 10 such devices on which, unfortunately, we have a lot of difficulty in sort of evolving inputs from the device communities, because many of these are not manufactured in the country, and obviously we are facing difficulty in getting the right inputs towards development of these standards. So the pending issues, the pending areas are the areas in which we are now laying focus upon, and we are trying to move ahead in the best possible manner. Of the major ongoing projects which are happening from the Heights list are some of these which have been highlighted here. I mean, if you talk of the cardiology or CTVS, we have standards like on thoracic videoscopy systems being made, rotabulation machine being made, sternum saw being made. If you talk of neurology, we have video polysomnograph device. Then if you talk of obstetrics, we have hysterotomy set, and then cryosurgical instrument systems. So these are some of the areas in which standards are happening. We will of course come into a bit detail in the subsequent slides. But this is just to give an idea of what is happening and where we are and what has already happened. Of some of the major ongoing projects, if I may highlight, a good amount of work is happening in the in vitro diagnostic devices, and fortunately we have been able to make good progress. Many standards are in the offing. And I think relatively this is one area where we have been relatively successful at in having the standards developed quickly. I mentioned earlier also the high-risk medical devices are the area where we are having difficulty, and I would welcome the support of the industry in this, and possibly ways and means we could possibly better address this area of work which we have not been very successful at. Not forgetting that this is an area which is very critical given the nature of the instruments or the devices that we are talking of. Surgical instruments and equipments, again, some of the areas has been mentioned here, like surgical staplers or the laparoscopic surgery equipments. These are general used surgery equipments and quite widely used, and obviously we have had these standards or these drafts ready. These are under public consultation. Some of these might have already completed their public consultations, and these would proceed towards further development and conclusion of the projects. Cold chain equipments, this is another area where we are also laying focus upon, and this is something which is also topical given the COVID situation and the need for vaccine and its distribution across the country. So these standards are under publication at the moment. Coming to cybersecurity of network connected medical devices, we have the draft with us, and work is also happening there. Biomedical waste is another area of work. Some of these standards, we have issues with regard to validation. I think these are being addressed too. In some of the cases, work is on, like the standards on the processes of segregation, collection, treatment, and disposal. I think the work has is possibly at a more mature stage. Telemedicine and telehealth standards is also another area which we have just initiated work, and I would welcome the participation and the involvement and inputs from the stakeholders, and particularly from the industry on this. Another area of significance that we are working upon is in the area of assistive devices, and this is something, a direction which has been given to us from the NITI Aayog. We have had standards on various assistive devices, but we are working on few more. And some of the ongoing projects refer to the folding cane, the therapeutic footwear, the club foot braces, and so on and so forth. And these are in various stages of their development. So we hope that we would be able to make good progress in this area too, and with good amount of success. I had mentioned in the beginning that it is important that we have a harmonization given the nature of the industry, where a large amount of the product do come in from outside, and that is, they are being imported to the country, and therefore we need to keep a view of what is happening globally and what are the global standards and how best we can align with these. So not surprisingly, you would have noticed that we have a large body of standards which are aligned with the ISO and IC standards which are available in this field. And we are also involved very actively in the relevant ISO committees. And in fact, we have been sort of leading or proposing some of the areas of work in these committees, and we would look forward to some of the other areas which we could identify and sort of push our agenda at the international level, or even to have certain changes in the international standards initiated at our instance in these international bodies. Some of the areas where we are working or we are leading projects at the ISO level are related to the contraceptive standards, in the assistive products, and in the area of Ayush. I think we would also be proposing a new committee for Ayush at the international level. I think this is an area which we are particularly laying stress upon, and we hope that we would be able to succeed in that. Health informatics, again, is another area where we are very actively involved in, and the use of medical icons in health software is a project where Indian experts are leading. So this is to give you an overview of what is happening in the standardization work, the developments that are happening, and some of the emerging areas that we are looking into. To facilitate the work of standardization, recently BIS has taken certain initiatives which would help us bring in efficiency and bring in more vitality and vigor into what we are doing. Not forgetting that these initiatives would also help us to carry out our work in a more open and more transparent manner. And outcome of this analysis is that we have revamped the entire BIS portals on various activities of BIS, including standardization. And we have a standards portal now, which is the portal through which we are carrying out all our standardization activities. Our committees are all now migrated to e-committees, and entire standardization work, we are trying to the maximum extent to have it online, right from every communication with the committee members to the circulation of documents, including the meeting documents, the minutes, the agenda, circulation of the drafts, the committee drafts, the wide circulation drafts. Commenting on the drafts is now facilitated online. Anyone can propose subjects online. Any organization who wishes to be a part of the technical committee and part of the BIS process of standardization has been given the opportunity to sort of indicate their interest in the committees or interest in being a member in the technical committees online. So we have provided access to all standards, indigenous standards, free of cost online. So these are some of the initiatives that we have taken so that we would be able to facilitate the participation of stakeholders and a more deeper engagement in the standardization work that BIS carries out. The promotion of standard is something we are also trying to lay stress upon. We are interacting with the various ministries at the central government. We are also interacting with the various ministries and departments of the state governments, not to forget of the industries and the various user organizations, the organized users, so that we are able to spread the information of the availability of the standards and of the significance and importance of their implementation in their individual sectors. We are also supporting the industry through their capacity building programs, as well as our technical committee members, so that they are able to have a better insight of how to participate, how to contribute to the work, and particularly when we are trying to sort of get more involved in international work. So how to go about that and how to better align with our activities with what is happening at the international level. So these are some of the initiatives that we have taken in the recent times, and one more initiative that I would like to mention about is that of our engagement with some of these startups. As you know that any innovation or any startup project heavily depends on standards for scaling those projects and for penetrating market. To have the market confidence in the product, obviously they need standards. And over the past 2 years, with the support of ICMR and BIRAC, we have been able to do this engagement with a large number of startups in the medical device industries. The result is that we have been able to take up some of the standardization work of these startup or innovations, and we have a success in terms of standard being made on the digital otoscope handle type, and some of the subjects which have been indicated in the slide we are currently working upon. So I think all in all, we have a lot of work done. We have a huge amount of work to do and challenges in terms of getting the right inputs and the right people on board and the right contribution so that we are able to come up with standards at the right time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Can you stop sharing the screen, sir? Yeah.
I've stopped sharing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chaudhary. You have given us a very great insight, and I personally like the last one where the connection is with the startups, and looks like the standards for the startups are going to be coming faster than the one which have been there existing for the previous medical devices and in vitro diagnostic devices. But nevertheless, it's a good thing that industry is going to have it. Thank you very much, sir. Very crisp information. Now I take the platform to Mr. Anil Johri, who's a known name in India because he has been an ex-CEO of NABCB, which is the nodal agency for controlling a lot of things in India, and especially accrediting a lot of certification bodies who have got a major role these days in India as far as medical devices and IVD industry is concerned. Mr. Johri has been ex-CEO NABCB, and he's been member of UNFCCC CDM accreditation panel, member yoga certification board. That's very nice because I am a yoga fan, so I particularly like this. Chairman SC GCP CS CDACA, lead assessor of NABCB, lead evaluator of APAC, and IAF evaluator. I've heard Mr. Johri in many platforms. His insights into certifications, their authenticity, and issues related to authenticity of the certification is immense, and we should be getting benefited with his inputs and his talk. Welcome, sir.
Yes, good evening, everybody, once again. Thank you very much, Mr. Pandya and Rama, for inviting me to this forum and share my favorite topic, actually, of unauthentic certifications. Rama, can you share the presentation because I couldn't download it?
I'm doing, sir. I'm doing.
Okay, you are doing it. Thank you very much. Yes, please. Because I had asked some changes which are not there in my copy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I was asked to speak on limelight on authentic certifications. Till yesterday or before pandemic, I used to bother about India, and during pandemic, we discovered the same problem word over of all kinds of certificates going around. I mean, as you are aware, medical devices are supposed to be under regulation worldwide. They are under regulation, unfortunately not in India. And we are still in transition, as everybody is aware, that we are in an 18-month phase of voluntary registration right now till 1st October next year, when Class A and B devices will come into regulation. And then another 12 months later, Class C and D will come into regulation. Therefore, because they are not regulated, the importance of voluntary certifications is even greater in Indian market than it is in the worldwide market. We also need to realize, all of us, that even after regulations are in place, whatever time it takes now, voluntary certification would continue to be in the market, especially ISO 13485. As you know, worldwide regulations are there, and yet 13485 certification has been going on. So you will have to, as an industry or as stakeholders, live with the fact that there will be regulations and there will be voluntary certifications on top of that. And the voluntary certifications, of course, then need an assurance in the market that these certificates are genuine or reliable or authentic, which is the issue that I'm going to talk about. Next, please. Certification is in voluntary market, as we all know. It's absolutely voluntary, generally speaking, unless it's notified as compulsory. For example, Jayanta was speaking earlier. In a lot of products, BIS certification has been made compulsory by the government, be it cement, be it bottled water, but not in medical devices. Please remember that. And the problem is that there is no regulation of these bodies. There's no single point control for these bodies. There can be any number of certification bodies in the market. Anybody can set up. There's no bar at all. Tomorrow, if I decide that I've had enough of what I was doing and I want to set up a certification body, there's simple. I just go and register myself under an appropriate instrument, and I can set up a certification body. There's no legal bar. All you, and certification is even easier. You know, lab, at least you need equipment and facilities. Certification is very easy. You can start from one room with some IT tools. I mean, we know of even accreditation bodies which are operating virtually have no office at all. As a certification body, you could have no office at all and yet operate. So that's easy comparatively. Next. You will find that all types of certification bodies are there in the market. They could be proprietorship, they could be partnership, it could be a society, it could be a private company, it could be a public limited company, it could be LLP, it could be a trust. I have not listed here. It could be a trust. It could be a profit or a non-profit body. It could be governmental. We have BIS as a certification body, governmental, or STQC in Ministry of Information Technology, which is governmental, or even EGMARC, which is a governmental body, or you could have private bodies. Now, as I said, voluntary certification is going to stay regardless of regulations for a variety of reasons. It is because of competition. I want to prove that I am a better manufacturer than my fellow manufacturer. Everybody is regulated, so everybody is following the same thing. I want some additional to show you that I am following something additional. You could demonstrate a higher quality. It could be even buyer's demand. Now, regardless of regulation, a buyer may demand that he wants, for example, I foresee in future, buyers will say we want a BIS certified PPE. Well, then you will have to go for a certification as well. Now, in medical devices, you know that ISO 13485 is the most recognized certification which is done worldwide. And while QMS is necessary as per MDR 2017 Schedule 5, ISO 13485 certificate is not really necessary, except that in transition for voluntary registration, CDSSU has said that ISO 13485 certificate is necessary. Now, some of the voluntary certifications are governmental, for example, BIS certification or ISA mark, or even ICMED certification, which QCI and AMED had started. But most of the certification that you see in the market is done by private certification bodies. And then the question comes, what kind of certificates are they issuing? Are they authentic or not? So let me show you some certificates which have been referred to me by a variety of people asking my opinion on whether they are okay or not. Next, please. So here is a certificate which is actually coming from China by an Italian body. So if you thought that the problem is in India, this is the first example I'm showing you. It was referred to me by early in the pandemic period by actually CIA asked me. One of the industrialists wanted to donate PPE and he was wanting to import. And I looked at this certificate and realized that this cannot be authentic. I mean, I could make out this not authentic, but to be doubly sure, I wrote to the Italian accreditation body and got a response within hours saying, well, this certification body is neither a notified body for this particular product by the European Commission, nor is it a accredited certification body of the Italian accreditation body. And therefore, I advised CIA that this certificate is not authentic. Next. Because of some insistence by Ministry of Health on 16603 for coveralls, all kinds of certificates on coveralls, appeared in the market. Here is one of them. Next. CE mark is such a popular subject for our certification bodies to issue certificates in India. Here is another one, which is CE mark. Now, why are these certificates okay or not? Next, please. Now, when I look at the certification bodies, names are there on the certificates. I look at something called ECM in Italy. I look at QCS in USA, IMC certification body in the third certificate, but there's no mention of where it is, no location mentioned. Two of them are claiming accreditation actually. But the accreditation bodies which are mentioned, GACB and GAAFS, I have no idea Who are they? Where are they? There's no mention again. Two of the certificates, as you noticed, have CE mark. And all these certificates actually are unauthentic. Why unauthentic? Because I can't authenticate these certificates in any way. Next. As I said, that anybody can set up a certification body, and how do you judge that it is authentic or not? If it is governmental, you can have some trust. I'm sure if BIS is certifying, we'll have implicit trust that if it is BIS certifying, it's a governmental body. It must be doing it right. But if it's private, how do you do? You go by brand name. If it's Tata Certifications Limited, you have more confidence. If it is Anil Johri Certifications Limited, you'll ask who is that. Or by word of mouth, your friends may have gone for some certification, found that certification body was nice, the certification helped them, and they tell you that, well, this is a good certification body, you could go to it. But internationally recognized, there's only one way, which is that it should be accredited. It should be accredited, and all accreditation is as per common international standards of ISO. Accreditation means that the certification body is under some oversight of somebody. It is impartial. That's very important in certification, that they are impartial because they are evaluating products or processes or organizations. It is competent. That's also important. Is a certification body competent in the field of medical devices? Within medical devices, it's competent to do PPEs or certain kinds of medical devices? Does it have a process to certify the products or processes? And does it certify against a recognized standard? That's also a requirement, that you should have a recognized standard. Lots of certificates go around simply claiming GMP certificate. What GMP? Which standard? I mean, there's no mention of the standard on the certificates, which is itself, which should raise your hackles, that what is this certificate which does not mention the standard? And more importantly, accreditation is now an international system, and it is part of an international system that authenticates the certificate. Next. So therefore, accreditation is the most important instrument available to you to see that you are having an authentic certificate. It has another advantage. It offers you worldwide recognition and acceptance, because there is a system under the international body called International Accreditation Forum, which is a global association of accreditation bodies. And from India, NABCB, where I was CEO, is member of IAF. And there's a system of mutual recognition. There's a system of peer evaluation. We are evaluated every 4 years. And based on that evaluation, our certification, different certifications, whether it's ISO 9001 or 14001 or 45001 or medical device QMS 13485 or product certifications, they are considered to be equivalent once we have undergone a peer evaluation successfully. So a certificate that you hold, ISO 13485 certificate, if it is by a CB, which is NABCB accredited, your certificate has international acceptance in certain ways. Next. Next slide, please. So a normal good certificate should have some contents which are previous slide. You've gone one further. The name and address of the organization, the scope of certification, what are the products or processes broadly. When it comes to management system certification, it would be broad coverage. If it is a product certification, it will precisely identify the product. Also the standard, which standard is it? Is it 9001 or 13485 or even scheme or even regulation? You could be certified against a regulation. So it is possible. But please remember that guidance standards or test method standards are not amenable to certification. So when there's a guidance standard, if certificates are issued, for example, ISO 10002, which is a guidance on complaints handling, certificates are being issued, or risk management, ISO 31000. These are guidance standards, they cannot be accredited. Even if CB wants to get accredited, it cannot get accredited because there's a bar from IAF on accrediting such certifications on the accreditation body. So as NABCB, I wouldn't be able to accredit these certifications. They are not proper actually, because they have to be formal requirement standards. It can't be a guidance standard. Date of issue and expiry of certificate. Every certificate has a validity. Next. An identification number of the certificate for traceability purposes. Name and address of the certification body. We should know where the certification body is. The logo typically certification body will have a logo. The indication that it is an accredited certificate would be through presence of the logo of the, normally through the presence of the logo of the accreditation body, which has accredited the certification body. So you can always look at whether the certificate carries at least a second logo apart from CV, which will be the accreditation body. Now, whether the accreditation body itself is authentic can be only checked through IAF, through the IAF website. And there may be an IF mark also. Certification bodies are allowed to use IF mark, and there could be an IF mark on the certificates, which is optional, but it is it's allowed. Next. So here is an example of a certificate which is actually old. Unfortunately, I couldn't locate a new certificate. I did mail. Maybe it's coming next. So this is a proper certificate. It's a Swiss accreditation body, a Swiss body, and an ISO 13485 certificate. Next. This is an ISO 9001 certificate. Just for your information, I wanted to show you an IF logo. It has an NABCB logo. It has the Quality Austria logo, which is the certification body, and it has an IF logo. So it indicates international equivalence as well. Next. Okay, here is a much better 13485 certificate from QE. It has the NABCB logo. And I think next will be the best certificate, which is absolutely current, is this one, which has, after NABC obtained QMS international equivalence recently, about I think 6 months back or 5 months back. Here is a certificate from one of the certification bodies with IF logo. So this is what indicates to you an authentic certificate which carries the logo of the accreditation body and possibly of IF, not always necessary. Please remember that. Even though equivalence is there, it's not always necessary. Next. So if I have to just in short tell you how to check authenticity of certificate that you may be having, first look at an AB logo on the certificate. Is it there? If it is there, then look at whether the AB is a member of IF. The website is if.nu. You can go there and look at whether the AB is a member of IF. It should be a member of IF. You can check the CB name on the AB website. Suppose AB is USAB. You can go to the USAB in-app and on their website look at the CB, whether it is accredited by them or not. Many ABs maintain a database. You can check with the AB itself on the website itself on AB database whether your certificate figures there or not. Or you can email the ABs and get to know, confirm whether the certificate, like in NABCB, you can email NABCB and get a confirmation whether the certificate is under NABCB accreditation or not. All CBs are obliged to, they would have on their website means of confirming the validity of a certificate. So you can, it's a requirement of the standard. So every CB has on its website some indication that you can confirm whether the certificate is authentic or not. Plus, IF is now creating a database. I have given the link, and this database would contain certificates all around the world issued. But please remember, this is a voluntary activity, so it is possible that not all certificates are on IF database because there is no legal requirement that everybody must declare the certificates issued. So absence on IF database does not mean certificate is not authentic. The best is to go to the accreditation body and get it checked through them that the certificate is authentic. Next. Now, slightly expanding on demonstration of compliance, certification is one way, but also I thought we'll talk about lab reports also. So it's best to go to a certification body which is accredited or a lab which is accredited and accredited for that particular scope. So NABL is in India, the accreditation body. Of course, you can also demonstrate compliance through certification of BIS for PPs or medical devices if somebody asks. Even through ICMET certification, and QCI was planning to launch ICMET Plus certification, which would have the flexibility to certify against any foreign standard, because in the market, there is sometimes even in MOH guidelines for PPEs, foreign standards are mentioned, but it's not mentioned how it's going to check the compliance to those foreign standards. So if QCI was to launch, I think it's already late. The scheme would have helped the market to get products certified locally to foreign standards. Next. So as an industry, you have to be very clear on what is the evidence acceptable for compliance to any standard, especially imports, because we are being cheated in many ways by the certification bodies. What is a test report that is acceptable from which lab? Usually from an accredited lab. And the certificate of conformity or certification from which kind of agency? Now in PPs, especially in India, I'm referring to them because there was more in the last pandemic time. There is huge amount of dubious certificates in PPs going around, because our guidelines also said that the PPs may comply with either US standards or EN standards or ISO standards, and therefore it was a free run for certification bodies to issue those kind of certificates. CE certificates are issued only by notified bodies of European Commission, which are located in Europe. They are not located in India. Please remember that. In foreign countries, notified bodies can only exist for the European CE mark based on a government-to-government agreement, like they have with US, they have with Australia, and I think they have with Japan also. Otherwise, there are no notified bodies, but associates of notified bodies do exist here, or branches of some of them do exist here, and they will help you. And that list is available on a particular website of Venture Center. I should have listed here. So you can see 8 or 10 associates or branches of notified bodies in India who can help you get CE certificate. As far as US FDA is concerned, there are no private bodies allowed to issue any certificate. I recently came across actually a retailer who got 5,000 pulse oximeters with a private certificate of US FDA, so-called US FDA certificate, and now he's in trouble of having landed with 5,000 pulse oximeters, which are not actually of good quality. So it's very important to go to accredited certification agencies and accredited labs as a minimum, or to the notified bodies if the government or the regulator of that country has notified them. Then there you go to the notified bodies. And I just want to leave you with one question, because this question I've raised with IMED also and CCC also, that today CDSU says that ISO 13485 certificate is necessary to get registered, voluntarily registered. Ministry of Textiles and some other government agencies have pushed for BIS certification of, especially of PPEs. And I think there's Jayanto knows there's a glut of N95 masks or equivalent FFP2 masks, 200 odd manufacturers, etc. But once MDR is fully in place, medical devices rules, it does not require certification. It requires audits by notified bodies. So what happens to all these certifications which are being issued today? The question for all of you to think about. I have a solution for it, but for you, as of now, I'm just leaving a question at the end. What happens to all these certificates which are today being asked for, but tomorrow, when medical devices rules is fully applicable, they are not required under the law? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your great input in this area. And I'm sure listeners will benefit and learn regarding these authenticity of the certifications and how to check the certifications, its accreditation and its credibility in the marketplace, so that they can really be assured that their certificates are really conveying a value of their systems which they have implemented. Now, I was supposed to bring in Mr. Rajiv Nath, but at this stage, I would like to bring in Dr. Ravikant Sharma-ji, who's representing the Chief Regulator of the country, CDSCO, on behalf of Dr. Vijay Sumani. Welcome, Dr. Ravikant Sharma-ji. Ravikant Sharmaji's name is well known in the country, and his presence has been noticed more and more during pandemic now. And I've had personal interactions with him. And Dr. Ravikant Sharma is very much approachable as far as the regulatory questions are concerned by the industry. And he's been mentoring the junior people in CDSCO to understand the rules and regulations better. And in one of the recent meetings, he was very candid and he said, whatever questions you have, please reach out to us well in advance. We'll be happy to help you with all the information and all the facilitation of regulatory requirements in the country around medical devices and IVD. And I welcome you once again, Ravikant ji. Please share your regulatory information with us. Would you like to share your slides, sir?
No, I don't have a presentation, but I can speak. I can
You're welcome, sir.
address your issues.
You're welcome.
And at the outset, I like to thank the organizers to invite us, the regulators. And Dr. Somani ji, he's busy in another meeting, so he asked me to join that meeting. So thank you very much. And I was hearing the presentations of my dearest colleague from Bureau of Indian Standards. And I'm very happy that they are taking initiation for supplying of the free of cost standards. That is a remarkable, steps to be taken by the Bureau of Indian Standards. I was hearing the presentation of Dr. Johari. It's very, very informative from regulatory point of view. How can we check the authenticity of the certificates? Because day to day we are reviewing the application, our reviewers, our medical device officers. So how can we assess the authenticity of the certificates? So wonderful presentation, but for this regulatory point of view, I wish to inform you that we are there to support our manufacturers. We are working 24/7 to make India this self-reliant, self-sufficient and self-confident. Atmanirbhar Bharat. So that is our motto. I wish to inform you to the August gathering that we are working and we are reviewing. We have cut short the timelines for the approvals during this COVID pandemic situation. We have issued the licenses even within 1 week time, so that our manufacturer should not face any problem, and there should be no regulatory hurdles. So right now we are regulating only 24 categories of medical devices, and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has contemplated to regulate all the medical devices. As you are aware that 2 notifications have been published defining the definition of medical device and how to go about the registration. So I want to clarify to all my colleague manufacturers that for registration, this is a voluntary registration. See, we don't know who is manufacturing PPE kit, who is manufacturing ventilator, who is manufacturing mask. But overnight, you cannot regulate. You cannot enforce the regulation. So what government has decided that we should give the time to our manufacturer. They should be ready with the infrastructure, with the manpower, with the specifications, with the standards, so that for Class A and Class B, the Ministry of Health has given the 30 months time, the 12 months plus 18 months. And for Class C and Class D, which are very, very critical, the 42 months. So 42 months and 30 months, I think this is enough time to increase the infrastructure. As far as voluntary registration is concerned, see, that is a very, very simple procedure. I think there is a confusion that if you are registering the product, so you are licensed. No. After 30 months for Class A and Class B, licensing will start from after 30 months. This is the voluntary registration. Simply, you have to upload the document, your brand name, your generic name, your manufacturer. If you don't have the ISO certificate, I'm telling you, it is not mandatory right now. As Dr. Johari has mentioned, CDSCO is asking only ISO certificate. The certificate which is issued by our Indian agency or QCI or by IAF, Or if you have any see, if ISO 13485 is not applicable for some electric items, so how can you submit? Certainly not. So in place of that, you can submit. This is not a mandatory requirement. But after 30 months, when you will come to us, then definitely for class A and class B, you know, there is an audit by the medical, this notified body. And for class A, the audit can be done after 120 days. So this is the liberty. This is the, you know, this the promotion. This is the relaxation waiver of the audit to the manufacturer. For class B, yes, before grant of license, the audit is required. One more question was asked, why when they are having the certificate, why medical device inspection is required? See, for the critical kits, I will take first example of class C and class D. If these are manufactured by somebody and they are having this ISO 13485, definitely it will help to export the product. But we have to see if tomorrow, say for example, if there is a certification, then if tomorrow something goes wrong, and we are working on the post-marketing surveillance studies also, or there's a material vigilance program also, and if there is a death or SAEs, so everybody, you know, manufacturer has to report. This is the system. We don't want to adopt the EU system. We want to adopt this medical device rules, and particularly there should be no hurdle for the manufacturers. So, and for as far as standards are concerned, our BIS, you know, Bureau of Indian Standards, they are working very hard. They have, I think, more than 1,000 standards they have formulated. For PPE kit they have done. And from 1st January 2020, we are going to take this regulation of 4 medical devices like blood pressure monitoring system, digital thermometer, glucometer, and nebulizer. So I request my all manufacturers that they should apply the 2 medical devices like thermometer and blood pressure monitoring. These are fall under class B. So please apply to the state licensing authority. And for class C and class D, nebulizer and glucometer, you apply to the central government. So that our aim, our target and our objective would be that in the first week of 2021, we can issue the licenses, so that there will be no problem for the manufacturers. So regarding this ASTM methods, there was some question raised in the earlier meetings. We have discussed in the DTAB meeting, and we have forwarded the notification to ministry. It has to be finalized, but due to this COVID situation, it is slightly delayed, and it will be published very shortly. So this is all about the medical device rules regulations. And for IVD, we are regulating all the IVDs, and for COVID-19, we are taking the priority. And for the manufacturers, you know, we are following with our zonal offices for quick audit and submitting the inspection report, the dossiers for examination, and the time limits we are issuing the licenses. So that's all about the medical device regulations. If you have any question, please feel free and ask the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we have kept the question answer sessions at the end of it, sir, so that I think people won't be able to ask the questions as of now.
All right.
We'll be taking those questions, and we request you to please be available when we have the panel discussion at the end of it.
Sure.
It would be very nice, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Wishing you all the best.
And a crisp summary of the regulation. And I now move forward with our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. Rajiv Nath. Mr. Rajiv Nath is Managing Director of Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices Private Limited. He is President of All India Syringes and Needle Manufacturers Association. I think one of the huge action area, since the vaccine is just around the corner. And I see his post and a lot of things coming into the news piece area, that there's a lot of movement as far as the vaccination syringes are concerned. He is founder and forum coordinator of Association of Indian Medical Device Industry, IMED, which has a huge membership. And I mince no words that I've been following him during the pandemic, even before pandemic, and his role has been extensive, very, very extensive and exhaustive for all manufacturers, regulators, and bringing a lot of other government organizations and associations on board so that things can be moving faster for the benefit of people. And through AIMED, he's been mobilizing most of the manufacturers also to comply with the regulation. And one of the last meeting, he said something which is very, very meaningful. He said, if I'm the head of the organization, I must know what the regulation is. With these words, I welcome Mr. Rajiv Nath to share his views for this conference. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Gupta, for the nice introduction. I will just share my presentation with you all.
Yes, sir.
Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ravikant Sharma, for staying on. And I think it will be interesting for you if you've not seen this presentation earlier, because I think we all need to be aligned, the standard making bodies, BIS, QCI, and their role in supporting the ecosystem in terms of NABCB in accreditation of the certification bodies, and also NABL in terms of accreditation of the laboratories, manufacturers like us who need to demonstrate our quality, and the regulator and the public, of course, for which we are working. So today's topic is, of course, very interesting, and it's not only covering regulations, but it also covers standards and certifications. We've heard about standards, we've heard about certifications, and I'm also going to be elaborating a little bit more about certifications. So what is our vision? Our vision is that India needs to be the top 5 in the world as a manufacturing hub, and we tirelessly work for that. And I think we are more than inching. We are now gathering traction and speed for doing that in many product lines. So this is a typical area that you find you've got traffic jams because people don't follow the law, or they want to do things their way. And you want to do things your way by shortcuts, then you have traffic jams, you've got chaos, and instead of going faster by overtaking somebody, in fact, it slows you down. So people think, why do we need regulations? We are fine. But actually, it's the other way around. If Indian industry has to be catching up with the world, and we need to be a world player, then we need to have regulations. So when we go to Germany, we find that Germany is ahead of France and any other country in the world, Japan or USA. Those may be having 85 miles per hour speed limits or 160 kilometer per speed limits. But in Germany, on many autobahns, there are no speed limits. And why is that? Because everybody knows what the regulations are, and everybody in a self-disciplined manner follows that. So the first thing about regulations is that it should be reasonable, very important, reasonable. And secondly, it should be achievable. If it's reasonable and achievable, and you know, and you understand what the regulations are about, then you can try to follow them honestly. And when you follow that, you know your role and the other person's role, then it makes you achieve things much better and faster. So clear expectations are here. So here is very interesting that you find that there is a traffic jam, but unlike India, where the 2 lanes will become 3 lanes, 3 will become 4 lanes, and traffic will start going on the opposite side of the road and create a complete logjam for 2-3 hours. In Germany, people are motivated that as soon as they find a traffic jam, they must go to the left hand and right side of the road and leave the center of the road free for the emergency vehicles like the police vehicle, the ambulance, and the crane to go into the bottleneck area and remove the bottleneck. And this makes people quickly remove the bottleneck area, and they can go on with their journey much faster than getting stuck in a 2-hour or 3-hour jam over there. So that's the advantage of regulations. And if India needs to go ahead, we must start appreciating that why we need them. So this has been the huge area for us, that in medical devices, because of lack of regulations, the quality of the product in the market has been of all kinds. So what we have is a jungle, and what we need is a green grass park. And the regulator's role is like of a gardener, to remove the weeds and keep on cutting the grass so that you have always a beautiful park over there. So the incomplete and the incorrect regulations and the lack of a regulator to oversee all our manufacturers and products and to keep on disciplining them has created this jungle all these years. At some period of time, we need to now clean it up and replace the jungle with a nice green park. So some manufacturers have tried to rely upon third country regulations and even buyers to prove their quality or to get their product bought by Indian buyers. And the incorrect regulations have scared off investments. So if I am going to be asking my friend in Bombay, for example, to make a multi-story building in joint venture with me in Gurgaon, and suppose I tell my friend, Mr. ABC in Bombay, please join me and I will invest. And in Gurgaon, currently buildings are allowed to 30-story, but you have experience for 90-story. Why don't you come and make with me a joint venture building and we make a 100-story building in Gurgaon, tallest building of North India? And he says, no problem. But then his executives warn him and caution him. And then he comes back to me and says, Mr. Nath, does not Haryana permit a maximum of 30-story buildings? I tell him, no, don't worry. The chief minister is my friend. And if chief minister is my friend, I will get the law amended and tomorrow you can make it. Do you think on that assurance he will join the project and start making a 100-story building? No, he will not. Because he would not like to make a 100-story building and tomorrow the regulations say not possible and somebody comes with a crane and demolishes the 50 stories which he may have illegally constructed. So making factories is like that. People will not invest unless they have a clarity what they have to make, whether class A, B, C, D product and what is the requirement required for them. So people have been watching and waiting for the regulations to come up for the last 10, 20 years. And this is one major reason why investments are not taking place. So the lack of regulations has discouraged investment and being unpredictable has confused manufacturers. If I'm making a nebulizer for exports, Europe wants it as class B product. But now CDSO says it should be a class C product. So I have not planned for sending my application to CDSO. I had planned it for sending it to a notified body and go on Sugam and go for automatic registration. And now my whole plans are disrupted. So my application is going to be accepted, not accepted. I'm not even clear about it. I will come to know that only on 1st January 2021, whether my application is being accepted, not accepted. So this is what is confusing manufacturers. With the result, we've been 70 to 90% import dependent. And we'll keep on being until we clean this mess up. So we decided to be Atmanirbhar in India. And we said if the regulator cannot get his act ready and he's taking time, at least the manufacturers should get their act ready. And we manufacturers, along with Quality Council of India, need to use something like a voluntary certification and respect for the Indian devices, whether an international certification or an Indian certification. And people came to us and they said, we need to see an Indian certification. So we've been struggling with this drug law since 1989, when the first product syringes was regulated along with IV sets and BT sets. And it took until 2016, Joint Secretary Mr. KL Sharma to come forward and listen to our issues and then de-link Schedule M3 from Schedule M and align it to ISO 13485. And within 6 months, once the right person was there to listen to us, we could have the medical device rules notified separately from the drug rules, and the country would go forward. And now from 2019, implants and some medical electronics have been notified for 2020, which has now been rescheduled by 1 year for 2021. So how do we encourage Make in India and not discourage investment in regulatory environment has been a foremost question. Whenever we talk about regulations, people are surprised. Industry talking about regulations. So we keep on coming to that same issue time and again, that why does industry need regulations? If you bring regulations, it will discourage investment. But I told you, this is one area, medical devices, the lack of regulations and having clarity on regulations is discouraging investment. And second is, forget about the medical devices industry for some time. Let's talk about the patients. How does one address the patient safety concerns? So we cannot have orthopedic implants coming in from abroad, which are corroded and harming patients. and Indian products being made also which are unlicensed or unregulated, in spite of being regulated. So you have regulations for orthopedic implants, but you've got factories, more than 100 of them, churning out orthopedic implants, and with complete fearlessness, they are selling the products. In spite of IMED keeping on telling the Ministry of Health and CDSO the addresses of these unlicensed manufacturers and asking for action against them. So what has been the solution? And the answer has always been that India needs to wean away from drugs law, and we need to have a separate law, and we need to revamp the regulatory framework to be having the required level of competency to cover drugs, devices, and cosmetics properly. And how do we involve the states in enforcement? How do we distribute the workload between the central government, the state government, and the conformity segment? So like in every organization, there is delegation. There is a boss. But me as a boss need not be a chartered accountant. Me as a boss need not be the mechanical engineer. Me as a boss need not be the pharmacist. So I can delegate to professionals under me who can do that role for me. So same thing over here. We have to create that ecosystem to delegate to the role to different parties in the ecosystem. So other key issues is if you're going to be regulating all these thousands of devices, more than 6,000, do we have the laboratory infrastructure? So we cannot wait and then after 2 years start saying that the law is now there and we need more transition time. So we have to start acting today. And on today's date, we have to start creating timelines and resources that what laboratory is required for which product, and whether it can be done in India, it can be done in-house or not. BIS says every manufacturer must have his own lab. Well, I can't afford to do everything in-house. So I may be allowed to do the low-cost test in-house. I may be allowed to do the expensive test out-house. And then the transition from shifting from the Drug Act to the new regulations, we need to have something smooth. So I will not delve into that. Dr. Sanjeev will be talking about that later on. And how do we ensure that patient safety is being ensured? But we have regulations, but the regulations are not acting as strangulations. So discipline, but don't strangulate. That's a difference. And this is where it was conceived nearly 5 years back that to build the competency internationally, we need to have our own Indian system. And the manufacturers, UCI, and 32 stakeholders got together from various departments and ministries, DST, DBT, the consumer organizations, IMA, AHPI, and with these 32 different stakeholder departments, including CDSEO, including Ministry of Health, created the ICMED certification. So there was a steering committee. Under that, there were two committees, the certificate committee, a technical committee, who spent 3 years arguing back and forth with people who were naysayers and created this certification system to become the best in its class in India and to be ahead of even BIS. So why ahead of BIS? The BIS will give you certification against an Indian standard. ICMED certification allows you to have certification as per an international standard. We keep on talking about global standards and India needs to be harmonized and benchmarked with global competence. Well, this is your chance. Once you have this, you can benchmark yourself with the world's best standards. So people say, why do you need ICMED? I have ISO 13485, that is enough. Well, ISO 13485 actually is not enough. When you go for international regulations or even Indian regulations, if you are complying with ISO 13485, you will not be able to comply fully with MDR 17, let me tell you that. You will not be able to get the CE mark. You will not be get the US FDA approval. You cannot get MD stamp. So we have studied what is international regulations, and on the 184 requirements or elements in the ISO 13485 2003, which was subsequently upgraded to the 2016 version. So now it is the latest version. On that, we've added 23 elements and additional requirements, which requires total 207 requirements. So on a benchmark, you can say nearly approximately 200 requirements. And you can score yourself, say 1 to 5 as to compliance with each of the requirements. And you have to give yourself the scoring every month or every quarter and see that you try to achieve a score of 5 for each of those 200 clauses. So if you achieve 5 out of 5 for 200 clauses or 207, you should be getting a score of 1000 plus. So this has to be your aim. And this is my aim for HMD, my own company, to get a figure of 1000 over here. And we keep on doing self-audits and internal audits and keep on striving for improvement because it's a dynamic thing. You cannot be perfect one day, but you keep on striving for this. And in addition to the QMS standard requirement for ISO 13485, what most regulators and what most new manufacturers don't realize, and even buyers don't realize, that for every product, there cannot be a product standard. So when you have a new device, how do you prove the quality in absence of a product standard? So you have to prove the quality of the product and the safety of the product by showing compliance to 13 essential principles for patient safety. So this is something which is quite abstract, which is normally not understood by many people, but this is where it is the most critical part of regulations or quality management systems or your design file, where you have to use these elements to show your product is designed well, it is fit for purpose, it is meant for the intended use, it will not create harm while being used, and it is safe to use. So it also has traceability requirements for labeling, which are a combination of what is required in the Consumers Act, legal metrology requirements, as well as the Drugs Act and the drug rules or now the medical device rules. So if you're complying with ICMET certification, you'll be automatically complying with the legal metrology requirements. You'll automatically comply with MDR. The MDR requirements are a subset of ICMET certification. And we also had ICMET 9001 for the class A level products, which gives 126 requirements plus additional requirements, 36 requirements over the ISO 9001 requirements to give 162 requirements. So CDSO may have thought of using Schedule 5 and Schedule 4 and sought to have ISO 13485 from even class A manufacturers, but we know you cannot go to the 5th floor straight away. You have to go step by step. So the new manufacturers or the old manufacturers who have been there for a long time, they have to learn what are systems. So let them start with ISO 9001, go on to getting ICMET 9001, let them strive for ICMET 13485. Then they have the competency, and when they go and sit for the exam for MDR 17, they'll come out with flying colors. And when they go for international certification, they'll be more confident to get that over. So people normally say, whether I go for MDR or I go for international standards, if I have achieved this, is enough. I disagree. So what is all we talk about? What is quality? And when you say everybody is complying with the regulatory requirements for different orthopedic implants, for example, if everything is safe, then one brand versus another brand, why I should pay extra? So why you should pay extra for brand A, Johnson & Johnson product, or a Dispoman more than an unknown brand? Because that company may be invested more in quality. By having quality by its ethos more than the voluntary quality standards and much more than the regulatory mandatory standards. So in fact, regulations of MDR 17 is a very small part. And the voluntary quality standards like ISO or ISO is the voluntary standard, ICMET is the voluntary scheme. These are a bigger part than the regulatory mandatory standards. And even this may not be enough, because as a manufacturer, you say, I want to make a product which is higher than the minimum requirement for a ventilator, for an ISO standard, for safety purposes, IEC standard. This is my product, my quality and my superiority. So my quality is even higher than those minimum quality standards. So it depends upon the owner. And if the owner thinks he can make the product just by keeping regulators, professionals under him, I think is not enough. I'm BCom honors. I've not done science. I've not done engineering. But I've taught myself what are regulations all these years. And I've realized the advantage of learning what is quality all about and systems all about. And this has helped to build our company to be a world-class competitive, globally competitive company. So it's up to you. You want to follow and try to be internationally competitive, or you feel you can be sitting on the back chair and have professionals run everything. That can also maybe work. But sometimes a general, I think, leading from the front always is good leadership. So you can see here medical device rules, ICMET rules. So ISO 13485 basically is the foundation. People say when you have the product standard, my quality is achieved. I don't need anything else. I comply with an ISI standard. So that itself is quality. Well, that is we call type testing quality. You may have achieved the quality for one particular product, but have you addressed the patient safety issues? Have you addressed the issues of additional regulatory requirements? Have you addressed the issues of essential principles of patient safety? So these are different layers. So the horizontal requirements are ISO 13485. Then you have the regulatory requirements which are there in the MDR Schedule 5, which are above ISO 13485. Then you may be having labeling requirements which are in other schedules of MDR. Then you may be having essential requirements for patient safety which are not in Schedule 5, but in a different schedule of MDR 17. And then you've got the horizontal standards like the clean room standards, for example, the clean zone standards, the validation standard for sterilization, and then you have, in certain cases, availability of product standards. And when product standards are not available of PIS, you may use ISO standards or even make your own company standards. And then together, you can maybe raise the brand India flag and show to the world that you're an ICMED certified product, which may be having medical device rules certification, but if not, it is even higher than that. So this is the trust that is available. And if more people are having this, that itself is going to get the confidence of the buyer. So it will be good for the regulator that if people are having this high quality, if people achieve the qualification to get GE, even if they don't enter IIT, they'll be having flying marks in Birla or in Patiala Engineering College. So set your sights high. So this is the quality system in the country. On top, you've got technical regulations. In our case, it becomes medical device regulations and the drugs law, hopefully to become tomorrow medical device law. And then you've got standards. You heard the first speaker, Mr. Chaudhary, talk about standards and standard making bodies. Association, they can make the standard. EIS can make the standard. Regulator can make a standard. Ministry can make a standard. A technical buyer can make a standard. So this is a standard making role and a system. And then a manufacturer has to use a laboratory or a certification body or a system to show the conformity assessment to that particular standard, whether it is a product standard or a horizontal standard. And if it is done in a mandatory manner, it comes under the technical regulations. So this is my talk all about. Thank you very much. And this is what we are working upon for minimum government and maximum governance. So these are the next steps. That's what we are seeking. Going forward, we are seeking the separate law and transplanting the medical device rules under the new law and building competency of the whole infrastructure in the country going forward. Whether it is the QCI, the laboratory system in the country and the accreditation by NABL. In the ICMED certification, we've even specified the competency requirements for trainers and for consultants. And this is helping the ecosystem. If ICMED was not there, MDR could not have taken off and allowed Class A and Class B products to have accredited certification bodies to certify you. So the system has been put into place. Let us take this forward and have the gains that tomorrow we can have a more innovative and more supportive bill and safer products for the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajiv ji, for the rich insights. The role of standards bodies and the certification bodies and the regulatory bodies. This is like a grand alliance, and this is like the Mahagatbandhan for the country, because if all the three of these apex bodies are in alignment, then that is the right quality infrastructure. That's the foundation for the right quality infrastructure in the country. And the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the foundation for Atmanirbhar Bharat is to have a very strong national quality infrastructure, and all the three bodies have got a role to play. Very rich insights. Thank you so much. Thank you as usual. That national quality infrastructure slide was very, very interesting. Thank you for it. And now can we just move on to the next session? Next speaker of the day, we have Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Gupta. Sanjeev ji is a fellow consultant and from our consulting fraternity. And so he is a quality management systems consultant and professional. His strength, his focus is actually in QMS, regulatory and technical domains. He has about 25 years of experience in the medical device domain and as well as in the in vitro diagnostics devices sector. He is a PhD in biotechnology from IIT Roorkee and CSIR IGIB. So he has held many leadership roles in several national and international organizations, almost covering a complete life cycle of all the categories of medical devices, A, B, C, and D categories, as well as in IVD products segment. So he has successfully transformed the quality management systems, processes in all these organizations where he has been involved. So he's also credited for bringing the first ever WHO pre-qualification of malaria in the IVD space in 2014 into the country. So he started, after his corporate innings, he just started his career in the consulting domain, and that's how the Interest Consulting was born in the year 2020. And he's currently working with several organizations, advising them on quality management systems and regulations. And he's also a honorary quality advisor on the board of many organizations. So he's also running an NGO for psoriasis and autoimmunity patients, and he has written several books and several hundreds of CME articles and health articles in the media and the newspapers. So over to you, Sanjeev ji. Let's listen to your session for the day. Thank you.
Dr. Gupta, your mic is off.
Not audible, Sanjeev ji.
Mic is on, but he's not audible.
Yeah, not audible, Sanjeev ji. Because we can't hear you. The screen sharing is also not to be seen.
Not there.
Sanjeev ji, if you can remove your headphones, maybe you were till the time you were talking. Otherwise, I think it was okay.
Yes, I guess it is must be the headphones. Yes.
You need to switch them off. Switch them off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Better. The screen is
right.
also visible.
My apologies for this.
Thank
you very much, Ramaji, for the introduction and telling about me. And I particularly like this session, which has been organized on standard certification, product compliances, and regulation, in which I've been given a responsibility to talk about the preparedness. And as Ramaji said, consultants do help manufacturers in the preparedness. And it's a success story for Interest Consulting because it was launched in March, and few of the project is already at the launch stage by now. And I will share my experience with the august audience and fellow speakers that preparedness for compliance to the regulation and QMS definitely needs your time and money. If you want to save any of this, my humble request is that please don't, because if you want to save time and if you want to save money, you will not be able to prepare yourself. and you will not be able to comply yourself. One of my tutors in early days of medical device regulation has said that it's really difficult for small and the medium scale industries to really, maintain the QMS to the best levels and the compliance to the regulatory requirements. But there is no other option also, because just imagine that if we are buying a product from a small scale or medium scale medical device manufacturer for our own use, we would expect the product to be having the complete safety and it should perform as per the claimed performance. It was explicitly highlighted by Rajiv Nachi in his talk, where he emphasized repeatedly that be ICMED 13485, ICMED 9001, or MDR compliance, the first and foremost important requirement is patient safety and compliance. And that's where it is our responsibility that we identify the time, which is very, very important. And when I say time, the time does not really mean that the people who are working under you, it also needs your time as owner of the organization and the money which is explicitly has been budgeted for this purpose. Many a times I have seen that companies don't budget these requirements sufficiently enough, and because of which what happens is they're not very clear about what is coming their way, how much time it will take, how much money it will take, and what all it will take. So it's just not talking to one person who may be a consultant. It's talking to your internal group and making sure that you have some information as to how much time and how much money is required for your preparedness for several areas, which I'm going to talk in my next slide. So I normally love to call it your regulatory planner. Now there are several kinds of situations which are going to come up in next 2 to 3 years. First and biggermost, which is happening even today, is that there are a lot of existing manufacturers who had the manufacturing licenses in the drugs and
Didn't call, huh?
Yeah. Someone saying something, or I can continue?
No, please continue. Please
okay.
Continue.
So there are existing manufacturers who have license in the Drugs and Cosmetic Act, and they were all required to complete their transition to MDR 2017. There is an error, so please read it as MDR 2017. And the best preparedness and best compliance can come if you can comply with Schedule 4 and Schedule 5. And one should always be thorough and understanding the rules. I have taken several rounds of training to the industrial partners on ADMI platform, where I have learned and I have understood that many people do not really go through the rules completely. It's very, very advisable that please spend a day or two in your organization to read the rules carefully. And please make sure that you're reading every chapter, every schedule, every form, and trying to understand what happens. Now, there are not only the rules which you have to read, you also have to read the frequently asked questions which are published by CDSCO. You also have to read a lot of information which is published on CDSCO website, which comes either as a gadget notification or a public notice or a public circular. Everything is a rule, because there are some rules which are given clarification by these publications by CDSCO office. So all manufacturers should consistently be logging in to the CDSCO website and looking at the public notices, also looking at the gadget notifications and any other letter or any rule or any explanation which has been published by the CDSCO office, because everything constitutes together a regulation. And it's important that we really understand very clearly the requirements under Schedule 4 and Schedule 5. Now, recently in 2020 amendment, there is a voluntary registration of medical device. Though Dr. Ravikant Sharma ji said that it is not explicitly required, but the rules and the guidance very clearly saying when you start uploading your application that you should have ISO 13485 certificate. And if sir feels that it's not a mandatory requirement, that may please be looked into, so that industry is really very clear on this. Once we have done the voluntary registration of medical devices, then comes the mandatory licensing for class A and B, and then followed by class C and D. Now, it does not really increase, it not only increases the workload of understanding of the manufacturer and the importer, but at the same time, it also pushes CDSCO office to enhance their capacities and enhance their system so that they can address more and more applications coming in through the transition into the first segment, where existing licensed manufacturers are doing transition, and the people who are voluntarily registering, and then the license applications which will start coming in probably 24 months from now. One of the important thing which is very, very significant, which I really like about the voluntary registration, is that once you register, CDSCO will issue you a registration number, which you are supposed to print on your label. So it gives you a connectivity with CDSCO, thereby letting people know that now you are under ambit of regulation, although at this point of time it's voluntary, but somebody in the system, somebody in the regulation now knows that your particular device has this much information, and this is the document which you have submitted, and thereby you are now printing this number, and it enhances the confidence of the customer in your product if this registration number is there. Now, when it comes to the preparedness, what are the 3 top challenges for the manufacturers who have been into transition with the existing license, and also through the voluntary registration and the time period which is coming up for them? There are 3 categorical areas where the preparedness would need time and money. First thing is infrastructure. Many of the organization, many of the manufacturers might need to upgrade it. And in the medical device rules today, we have some of the specifications given for infrastructure for medical devices. However, it's open-ended area still for in vitro diagnostic devices, where no clear classifications or requirements of the infrastructures have been identified. It's open-ended. Maybe in due course of time it will close, but I want to tell you that your infrastructure should be good, because when you have people coming into your factory either for inspection or for regulatory inspections, it is always nice to have a place which looks beaming, which is very attractive, which is very neat and clean, where you can demonstrate that you are meeting the minimal infrastructure requirements. And it is many a times people write on their website and the technical brochures, state-of-the-art manufacturing unit. Now, state-of-the-art manufacturing unit means that you are following the latest standard for those infrastructure requirements. That is the connectivity with the state-of-art infrastructure development and establishment. And here, I have seen that many manufacturers are looking forward for the inputs from the consultant. I want to tell you, want to give you a heads up that you are the best person to decide what you need. Consultants can also add up to their understanding, with their understanding, so that you can freeze requirements. What you need to do is you need to follow your process. And during the process, that's manufacturing process and the QC process. And that's where you will understand what is required as far as the infrastructure is concerned. Now, apart from this manufacturing process, you can also map your complete process from raw material to the finished goods. You will immediately understand what are your requirements. Then go to the rules, understand if there is, let's say 80% rule, 80% infrastructural requirements have been identified in the rules. 20% you can bring at the same level and make it 100% at your level. The QMS and the quality culture, I am writing 2 things separately, because QMS is something which people feel we do minimal and we achieve this. But quality culture is something where there is nothing called minimal about quality culture. Quality culture is all about the intent. And if you have a good quality culture, the QMS certification, the regulatory compliance are the byproducts of it. I always tell in various platforms. But how does it come? Basically, the QMS and quality culture has inputs from the infrastructure and input from your people around. Your people in your design control activity, your people in your purchase activity, people in your production process, people in your quality process, people in your maintenance process, people in your management process, people into all processes which actually make an organization run. And out of all these, CDSCO, all the rules do advise us that we have people into production and quality with the right qualification, and people with the right kind of training. So it's very, very important that not only somebody at the top understands the regulatory requirements or those QMS and quality culture requirements, it's across the board, every personnel in the company, from the top management to the person at the gate, that everyone is made aware about it and they're trained about it. Why I say the person at the gate? In 80% of the companies, which are medium and the small size companies, there are a lot of monitoring of the cold rooms or special areas is being done by the people who are kept at the security, and they're asked to fill up the formats when everyone has gone home. So it's important, just understand, if a technically qualified person was doing it in the daytime, who's doing it in the night time? So that's why it is very, very important that we identify, when I say personnel, that every single person in the company is connected with the process requirements, and the preparedness is so good that you don't miss out on anything. So please remember, the preparedness needs your focus on infrastructure, your QMS and quality culture, and the quality of your personnel. Keeping all things together, your preparedness can take you ahead, whether it is ICMET 13485, ICMET 9000, MDR compliance, or even CE marking, or if you have if you want your global presence. So more globally you want to go, you have to look your infrastructure from the global perspective, your QMS from the global perspective, your quality culture from global perspective, and your personnel from your global perspective. You can't really have an international auditor coming in and putting in someone in front of them as an auditee who can't explain anything. So it's very, very important that we have a right mix of infrastructure, QMS, and personnel. Now, also the one of the very, very significant preparedness which is required in the upcoming days, 24 months to 48 months, as Dr. Ravikant Sharma emphasized, that we all need to learn and inculcate the technical documentation. This technical documentation, which is crux in Schedule 4, and this technical documentation also helps you to prepare for CE marking, also helps you to prepare for any global regulation. Of course, the extent and criticality may vary from Schedule 4 to requirements of MDR 745 or IVDR 746 or 510K or any other global requirements. So you need to basically understand each and everything. I want to bifurcate this into clinical investigations, which go for the medical devices, and performance evaluation and clinical performance evaluation, which is for the IVD segment. However, for both segments, there is a requirement of essential principle checklist. Now, Rajiv ji had explained this requirement for ICMET 13485. Now, it's very, very, it has become so simple these days to understand what is required, because CDSCO is providing the format and a minimal commentary on this. But I want to tell you that one of the crux requirement for EP checklist is, as a manufacturer, you need to identify what all national standards and international standards, in absence of national standards, you need to comply in order to be satisfying the requirements of patient safety and performance. Along with it, you also address the requirements of risk management. Now, there are some medical devices and almost all in vitro diagnostic devices where we need to perform the stability studies. Now, all medical devices which are claimed sterile, we again need to perform the stability studies, because the sterility is directly related to the packaging of the device. And then, of course, the requirements of the labeling. And when we are talking about labeling, something new or something more will come with the UDI, even within the MDR 2017 in due course of time. And once you have all this information from clinical investigations in terms of medical device or performance evaluation, or CPE in terms of a new in vitro diagnostic device, that you will be able to prepare your Schedule 4 technical documents, which is Appendix 2 in case of medical device and Appendix 3 in case of in vitro diagnostic devices. So if you understand all this, your preparedness is going into the right direction. Now, I won't take much time. This is perhaps my last slide, and I want to tell with very great conviction the certain do's and certain don'ts. Let us focus the don'ts which are in red, okay? I have seen, I'm sharing it upfront. Please don't hire good evening and happy weekend consultants. What I mean by good evening and happy weekend consultant is that the good evening consultant means this person is working with somebody and he has only his evening time free to help you. You are actually working under a huge conflict of interest with another organization. Same may go with the people who are doing it on the weekends. So please don't do that. They are not giving you 100% time for your preparedness. and 100% guidance to you, because the time given by them is going to be very, very limited to you. Okay, and please don't take any shortcuts and don't buy certificates. Mr. Anil Johari made us understand today about the authenticity of the certificates. My personal feeling is that if you understand and if you do whatever is there in the green box, the certificates is a byproduct of it. So let's not worry about the certificates. Let's worry about that we prepare ourselves and run ourselves. So how can we do that? We must understand the requirements for whatever standards we are going for, or whatever rules we are going for. It's in English, it is in Hindi also. So if you don't understand, many of us may not understand complete English, there is in Hindi also. If you really want to understand this, please tell your consultant, spend 2 days making us understand and train us for these rules requirements. That should be the first thing which you should be looking for. And please dedicate resources in time so that you know that this is the time and money which is going behind it. And then implement everything smartly. When I say smartly, it means you don't overdo, you don't underdo. It's very, very important that we just don't follow what others are doing, other companies are doing. Let's understand what is my extent, what is my nature of work, and my nature and work may decide the extent of my implementation. It doesn't mean you will be getting exclusions, but somewhere you can really, really smartly implement it so that it works well. One of my personal conviction as a consultant is don't ask your consultant to write your quality manual. Write it yourself. Write it yourself. When I say write it yourself, write it as a team if one person is not able to do it in your organization. What happens is it brings tons of advantages for you. You see, government has published the rules. You are expected to understand it. You read it, you leave it midway. Sometimes you understand it, a bit of it, sometimes 50%, 60%, and like that. Same happens when someone writes a quality manual for you. Don't do that. Involve your consultant, make them sit to guide you, to handhold you, but write your own quality manual so that you know what you're committing. And if you write your own quality manual, you are understanding everything 100%. That's the advantage of doing it. So that with this, I hope that these few slides help you in your preparedness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji, for those wonderful insights on the MDR transition and the way forward and the role of the consultants. Can we just move on to the next session, Sanjeev ji? Will you please? Yeah, thank you.
So our next speaker for today is Mr. Satendra. Please allow me to bring in his introductory slide. It's a pleasure to introduce Mr. M.G. Satendra, who's founder and CEO of Q-Band Global and member Consultant Consortium of Chennai. I've heard personally Mr. Satendra, he has vast knowledge about medical devices and regulation. To introduce him briefly, he's been assessing labs for NABL, faculty for IMT, MA for training on global conformances, technical assessor for medical device quality management system for NABCB, trainer and faculty for FICCI for 17025, 13485, faculty for BIS, NITS, and huge 4-decade experience in national and international certification and testing. In specific, from 2000 onwards, he's been educating manufacturers in global compliance to Indian and international standards, a couple of other standards. He's a technical expert and assisting in pre-compliance of CE projects. It would be so nice to hear his vast knowledge into a very summarized form. Welcome, Mr. Satendra. I will launch your PowerPoint.
Okay.
Just give me a minute.
Okay, thank you, Sanjeev ji. Thank you.
You want to start your PowerPoint on your own?
I can also start, not a problem.
Yeah, please do that. Please do that, sir.
Very good. The PPT. I had opened it and kept, no?
Yeah.
1 second.
Shall I open? Otherwise, sir, do you want me to open it?
I think better you do that.
Do you have
can
Sanjeev ji? Sanjeev ji,
I
you
don't
have?
know. Somehow it's
I'm
not.
opening it. I'm opening
No, Sanjeev ji
it.
is.
Here you go. Here you go.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know, sir. It was kept it open. Anyway, first of all, thank you IMDI and Consultants Consortium, specifically Mr. Pandya and Ramaji, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. So in the next 15 odd minutes, we will have a bird's eye view of all the global medical regulations. A lot of it has been already spoken by Dr. Sanjeev and Rajiv Nathji. So this just supplements what they told. Okay, next.
Yeah.
See, basically, why is it required? I think we have had enough of that. The most important thing is we cannot guarantee absolute safety of any medical device. As Dr. Sanjeev also told, there is some risk attached to every device, and we need to assess those risks. And this is closely aligned to the device performance. And most important thing is it is to be considered throughout the lifespan of the device. If my vehicle is old, I can, say, sir, it's 10 years old, the pickup is little bad and all. Can you talk like that about a medical device? 10-year-old CT scanner, sir, some patch here and there will be seen. Is it acceptable? No. So unlike other devices, this is something very important, that whatever requirements are there, it has to remain the same throughout the lifespan of the medical device. So, which is why we require, or we should have, a shared responsibility among all the stakeholders, and we'll see who are there. Next, sir. And this has already been told by Rajiv ji also, by Anil. Lot of products are still imported. Regulations, whatever problems we have. So with lot of imports coming in, we have lot of unscrupulous market influences, and it puts, end of the day, who's at risk? Our patients, our customers. So that is how the regulation came into picture, and what is happening globally, we'll have a short idea of that. So basic requirement is, yes, ensuring the safe use and disposal of the devices. Next. So this is the WHO slide, which is famous, known as the healthcare technology life cycle. I will leave it this with you to think over, like how the technology is acquired, then what happens during the manufacture, research, assessment of needs at every stage. The whole thing is shown as a healthcare technology life cycle. We have discussed some parts of it during the earlier deliberations. So we just go ahead from there. Next one. And this is where it shows, I told about shared responsibility. We have manufacturer, we have the government regulators who are here today. Public and the patient are the ultimate users. Of course, the equipment is used on them. The users would be the professionals, the medical professionals, the doctors, the paramedics, the nurses and all. And the vendor also plays an important role, because from manufacturer, it is going through a distribution channel. So where does the regulation come into all this? In a nutshell, we'll see in the next slide. Next. See, the regulation starts from the conception itself. Conception of the product or the device, then the market. So this is known as the pre-market section or the era where a regulator requires a permission to be taken. Many devices under several classes require a manufacturing license to be taken, because you have certain clinical trials, you need to verify the device, you need to validate the device before it goes for manufacturing. So this is a part of the regulation. Then after manufacturing, we have packaging and labeling. That is where the ICMED, we came to know that we have added labeling requirements. We have added some requirements which are not in all the standards which are published, but they are definitely required to regulate for the customer to understand. And then while placing on the market, yes, advertising is a very important thing. How the equipment is sold, what are the features to be advertised. There are regulations on that also, so that no consumer or user is misled. Then, of course, comes the use and the post-market surveillance, about which our Ravikant ji has also spoken. What happens once it is already in the market? How is the surveillance taking place by the Indian regulator? And the same thing happens globally. So we will just see about that also in a moment. Next slide, please. So this is just an example. What happens pre-market, placing on the market, and post-market? Who controls that? Like the manufacturer has to specify the device attributes, the safety, the performance, what quality systems he has, accurate description of the product, instructions for use, and then who is the vendor who's putting it on the market, placing on the market. He has to inform us what are the after sale obligations, what are the products they use, prohibiting misleading or fraudulent advertisements, including like certifications, what our friend Anil also talked about. And then we have the surveillance and vigilance, which is normally done by the regulator, monitoring the clinical performance, problem identification, alerting the customer or the user. All this is done by the regulator. So this is a very simple example of how things work. Next, sir. So we look at the history, how this was formed. See, it's not just with India. These problems exist everywhere. So the Global Harmonization Task Force, of course, this doesn't exist now, but this was the mother of all, founded in 1993 by the governments of Australia, Canada, Japan, and the EU and the United States. The idea was to encourage convergence of standards and practices so that there is harmonization of these practices also across the world. Today we all talk about one world, one mark. Our friend from BIS said one country, one standard or regulation for India. But the same way we talk about the world, we talk about one kind of a regulation which is common, which is understood by everyone. So these countries made the beginning in 1993. The idea was to achieve greater conformity between regulatory systems. Like we have the MLAs and MRAs today, achieve that conformity so that export, import, everything becomes easy and you don't have to deal with multiple system, multiple testing and so on and so forth. Next one, sir. So naturally the benefits are there when the program is harmonized with the programs of other countries. Regulatory burdens and costs. Sanjeev ji talked about the cost and time. So cost is definitely a consideration by any innovator, any manufacturer. But when these are harmonized, definitely that one set of test results which are done in an accredited facility here are acceptable otherwise to the other regulators. You definitely are going to be happy. And this was faced very severely by the PPE manufacturers in the last couple of months when the regulators in other countries would not accept what was done in India. And the cost, many of them gave out, me, Rama and our CCC, we did a lot of programs, but end of the day, it was only a very significantly low, manufacturers, number of manufacturers who went in for all that, thanks to the cost. So regulation, if it is harmonized, definitely these costs will reduce and international trade would be enhanced. Next ones. So these are some of the regulatory authorities from the GHTF. I'll leave this with you just to show an example what kind of licenses, what kind of a like the European Union has the CE marking, and then there has to be authorized representative available. Canada has establishment license. Australia has an identification system, and United States also has an establishment registration. So these are the systems prevailing in these countries as just an example. Okay, the next one. So this has now taken over all the work of GHTF. It is known as the International Medical Device Regulators Forum. Now we have Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, and then there are some other countries which would be shown in the next slide with WHO as the observer. But unfortunately, India is still not a part of IMDRF. Maybe our regulator should consider this and get into this elite club so that we also, we are not only talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are also talking about making India for global market. So considering both, we also need to be a part of this. Next one, sir. Yeah, these are the countries from GHTF to IMDRF. The increase in countries is Russia, Singapore, South Korea, and WHO is the official observer. And of course, there are, like, we have this APAC and ILAC and all that regional cooperations. We also have harmonization working parties for Asia, for Pan American Organization, PAHO, and even the APEC for this side. So these are all represented in the IMDRF. They are known as the regional harmonization initiatives. So my submission here to the the regulators, we also should definitely get into all this. The next one. Yeah, this I think we have already talked about for India. I just wanted to show how the regulations are different in different regions. So 3 main regions considered, because the short presentation of 10-15 minutes. A, B, C, and D already low risk devices like the thermometer, tongue suppressors, to a high risk device like a defibrillator or a pacemaker. In India, we have 4 classes. Europe is very complicated. We have class 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. Now, the new medical device regulations which have come into picture and which would be implemented from next year. But even today, all the certification bodies across the globe are not accepting any application for the old medical devices directive. So there are 22 different rules which are given under Annex 8, and it depends on the duration of the device the patient is connected with, 30 minutes, 30 days, all that is there, invasive or non-invasive, storing like for infusion of blood. A non-invasive device itself can be a 2A for a IV or something like that, and a blood bag could be 2B. A bandage itself can come under different classifications based on use. In fact, the classification itself could be a half-day training program as far as the European Union is concerned. Next one. And this is necessary because regulations depend on this. Yeah, pardon?
We need to expedite a little bit, sir.
Yeah. Because unfortunately my screen was not moving, I have to depend on you.
Yeah, no problem.
FDA, again, there are similar classifications, low to high. And the one more classification we need to remember is the software, because a lot of medical devices are on the software dependent. So there also we have classified based on the risk A, B, and C, which you can see on the screen, from death to no injury. Next one, please. Yeah, these are another thing which all the manufacturers should know, what is the intended use and what is basically the application. So these are very important, what the device is supposed to do and where it is to be used, how it is to be used, what is the patient population. These have to be decided, and the basic principles under which the law enforcement authorities or the regulators should look into are basically increasing the knowledge of the device sector, basic regulatory program, and guideline how to recognize and use the standards, like the CDSCO says Indian standards, ICMED, we have allowed both. So that's very important, and setting priorities for the regulatory program development. Yeah, next. This is again known, already spoken by various people. A and B state level, C and D by the central authority. The common procedure, yeah, 4th schedule is a technical review. 5th schedule by and large is 13485 by a notified body. And who's a notified body? One who is recognized or accredited by NABCB. Next. EU also has 5 elements: essential requirements, standards, conformity assessment modules are there. We have done earlier these training programs. Then you put a CE marking, and then of course followed by market surveillance. And this is the regulation which you can Google and get. Next, sir. Yeah, FDA again CFR 21/862 to 892. This is the like our MDR 2017. They have these again available on the FDA website, and they provide clearances, no certification or approval. Like Anil told, a lot of certificates are going around with the FDA logo and all, which are all fraudulent. The next one. Last two slides. Yeah, ultimately it boils down to standards. Why do we need all of them? Because that is where a reference criteria is met. Directives would say in layman's language, it should not harm this, it should be risk-free, this and that. But unless you have a standard, you cannot have a reference criteria. Even in the CE marking with all the regulations, the things become easy because the directive says that if there is a harmonized standard, the presumption of conformity is meeting the standard. And of course, safety, reliability, definitely. And more choice to the consumer to substitute. This is very important. When I know that there are two products available in the market, both are conforming to the same standard, I know that I can substitute one to the other. At least both will give the minimum similar or same performance. Yeah, next. I think, yeah, this is, I think, the last slide. Very, indispensable standards. Medical devices 601, 16142, part 1 and part 2, basically for IVD and non-IVD, themselves give a host of list of standards within this standard, which you can refer to when you are making a device, and it gives some essential health and safety requirements, safety and performance requirements. So these are like the, any medical device manufacturer cannot live without these. And then we have the risk assessment, we have the software, and we have the usability engineering. Each of them, could be a half-day session on training. 13485 ultimately is to give you that robustness that you have a system, and this is also required for regulator, because the standard title itself is requirement for regulatory purposes. So world over, minimum requirement is that I need a quality system and it should meet 13485. The last slide. Next. Yeah, this just, shows that, how complicated is the system. That photograph, which I think they are sharing the system. A medical system needs so many things. And if you look at a OT, now you can imagine the number of standards for each device. Right. So that was in short. Normally, this is the liability when the presentation is at the end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for great insight into this regulation. Now I would introduce one of the most important person who's been organizing this, helping everyone to come together. Let me introduce Ms. Rama Venugopal. She's Executive Director, Value Added Corporate Services, Chennai, and President of CCC, who's been coordinating this webinar along with IDMI. And I'm not going to read a lot of her biodata. She has 27 years of consulting experience, holds a degree in commerce, and has got 25 years of rich experience. And she's also a joint coordinator for Association of Medical Device in South region. And as an executive director of value-added corporate services, they've been consulting to different organizations for management systems and strategic advisory services like merger and acquisition, funding facilitation, and JVC, etc. Welcome, Ramaji, for your vote of thanks and concluding remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeevji. Today, we have scheduled actually a session called panel discussion and followed by a brief question and answer session. But due to paucity of time, we have decided to skip the session. But we would like to request all the participants, audience, just to send their queries and to CDSCO, Dr. Ravikant Sharma ji. All the any queries that you have related to regulations, you can send your mail to Dr. Sharma ji. I will post his email ID here, and with a CC to IMED, which is an industry body, a forum for manufacturers, medical device industry. So please send all your queries to Dr. Ravikant Sharma ji with CC to forum coordinator. So we will answer all your queries, and association also will take up and respond to all your queries.
Madam, yes, I'm in
Yes.
office only. I'm full disposal of the manufacturers. So I have to work up to 10 o'clock because since 3 o'clock I'm in the same web meeting organized by Rajiv Nathji, then again this MDI, and now my work is pending. So I have to finish my work up to 10. I'm in office. So I don't hesitate to take your questions. That's why I'm telling you, regulator, have faith. Have faith in regulators. Most important part. Number two, some people were telling that infrastructure, as my learned friend Sanjeev Kumar. Let me tell you that we have recruited 25 engineers, sir. These are our mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, all right, electronic communication. We have imparted the training program to them because from 1st of April 2021, we are taking the equipments also, like all implantable devices like PET machine, X-ray machine. So we have a vision. And in addition to that, I like to inform all my, this manufacturers community that Government of India has sanctioned 754 posts for medical device vertical.
Awesome.
So we are coming in a big way. We want your suggestion. We will sit together. That's why I am telling you. See, for example, we have installed, established a PRO cell in our department. And in our zonal office, each and every zonal office, public relation officer. If any startup, any manufacturer, they have the query, they can go there. They can write to me. I am personally monitoring the emails and the same day I am reverting back. So we are helping like anything. We are working 24/7. And like one question raised by Rajiv ji that about the nebulizer and all this class. See, when we study, we don't pick up a single device. We have uploaded 754 medical devices, including IVD, in our website. And we are regulating in a smooth fashion. But if you see, when we are giving this classification, we are taking into account the Singapore, the EU, the USA, the Japan, because nebulizer is little critical than other three. So we kept in this category C. So I think what I want to say more about the voluntary registration. Voluntary registration means, I will give an example. In this pacemaker is not under regulation. And there were some complaints that the battery was exhausted. Now tell me, all panelists and all my colleagues, who will be responsible for the poor patient who has been implanted the pacemaker? Tell me. Registration means this is a voluntary registration, but slightly they are coming under the purview of regulation. Regulation means if there is any problem, they can create a corrective action and preventive action. There is a scope of improvement. You can't say that there is a punishment. No medical device is safe at all for 100%. It is on the base of risk and benefit. Why we are conducting the clinical performance evaluation of the IVDs? Why we are conducting the clinical investigation for new medical devices? To assess the safety, effectiveness, and performance of the medical devices. So the regulation which we are following, see, if you want to reinvent the wheel, you want to have more regulations, that is up to this manufacturers. But the thing which is moving in the right direction, we are taking on the board the Bureau of Indian Standards, and like Satyendra ji has pointed out very clearly, the classification is very, very important, and classification is based on the risk base. You can't say that this is a class B, this is a class C. When internationally it is regulated as a class C, then you can't say that is a class B. It should be scientific driven. There should be evidences. So I wish you all the very best. And if you have any question, I'm ready to take, because I am in office. I am taking my, some small food stuffs, and I can answer your questions if you wish.
Sir, I have one question. Where will the 750 officers sit? Where are you going to be relocated?
We are going to hire a big building, sir, not in this department.
Right.
So, overnight you can't do anything, sir.
That's right.
You have to, why we have given 48 months to our manufacturer. Think about that.
That's true.
They should be ready. What is the labeling requirement? What is the packaging requirement? What is the, as you to sell this quality manual, as you said, the infrastructure, as you said, this manpower, the water system, the air system, lots of things are required. And one thing I want to, tell you from this forum, in our countries, for example, if we are marketing the product, clinical investigation and clinical performance evaluation is not much important. The important is the post-marketing, the material-vigilance. Always drug is discovered, but device is designed. After 4 months, it is having a very short cycle. After 4 months, doctors will say, no, we need this design. So you have to produce that design. So what I'm saying, that one should be having the specified this standards, and standards, BIS standards, they have given the 1,000 of standards. If you don't have a standard, then ISO standard. If it's a new medical devices, then you can't take any standard, that is the manufactured validated specification you have to follow. So your question was about where we will sit. We will hire a big building and we'll sit there.
That's good, sir. Rajiv
Right,
ji
sir.
has something to ask you, sir.
Any other question? I'm happy to listen. Yes.
Rajiv ji is
Sir,
very...
I would like to ask one question, sir.
Ji, ma'am.
During this pandemic time, at least I myself have received about half a dozen queries from the medical professionals, doctors, asking me for the contact details of the material vigilance teams. And very surprisingly, while I was sharing the details with them, not many of them are even aware of this material vigilance initiative by the regulatory body, CDSU and IPC. So even IPC has got state level cells and district level cells also. Unfortunately, the medical professionals are not aware of it. And then the material vigilance feedback form also. Everything is available online in the portal. Then the disconnect is which we could see. So we request you to do some exclusive sessions for the healthcare services fraternity, which is very, very important.
Madam, I should point it out that I have gone to attend a marriage. And in between, I was asked to join this material vigilance program conference. And this was organized by IMED Rajiv Naji. He was very much there. When he is representing 700 or 800 manufacturers, that is his duty to disseminate the information. We are available everywhere. These relatives were saying, oh, you have come to attend the, music was going on, you have to dance, but I was sitting in front of Rajiv Naji. So what I'm trying to say, they have conducted a program.
Yes.
And this, what I urged to Rajiv Naji, that he should conduct he should web meeting, he should conduct, he should organize, he should call the medical fraternity. He's aware, he's the part of that committee. So everything is in the open. I mean, dispense information is available. Yes,
it is very much so. More engagement, and another request is having defined this, creating this PRO cells also. Please communicate to the industry also, sir, because to all the stakeholders, it's a very good initiative, and everybody should know and make use of the structure.
And let me add you one thing, madam. There is a BIREC, this department, and they have the meeting on every Friday of every month, and the representative from BIS, from CDSCO, from ICMR, and from NIB, National Institute of Biologicals, they are resolving the problem at a time. And I have attended for more than 2 years, and we have sorted out more than 500 cases at a time. So when there is a startup in our every zone, if the manufacturer is facing the problem, he should go there. These are the documents. We are not getting the notified body. Today, we are writing the all mails to our state licensing authorities that whatever the applications are pending, you expedite it. But you communicate us. Until unless you are not communicating, you should say that this application is lying for the this audit of by the notified body. Notified body is not responsible. We will take up the matter with the state licensing authority. So, and in our journal offices, our MDOs are going there, they are auditing, they are sending their recommendations. And let me tell you, I am not, see your community, your IVDs and your, whenever the license is coming to Delhi, within 3-4 days, it is approved. It is clear. So what else you want? See, Rajiv ji has pointed out 100 of points against nahi kahunga. This is a to improve the CDSU. I will take in the healthy this one. But today I want Rajiv ji to speak 5 things, good things about CDSU.
Rajiv ji, over to you.
Bonus is on Rajiv ji now.
Yeah, let me start first from the nebulizer thing. Let me clarify. When the manufacturer came to me with this issue about the class B and class C, my response to him was that a regulator has got the right to fix the classification different than what is even specified in the GSTN. And the manufacturers have to go with what is defined in that country's regulatory environment. And a country's regulations can be different from other countries' regulations. So if B is defined as C in India, well, so be it. You have to comply with C. At least it is clear to you.
Correct.
It's more confusing for products which is not clear. So I told him to go ahead with that.
Very good. Thank you.
From our part, of course, we try to do a lot of filtration.
No, you good 5 points about CDSU. You spoke 100 points about what we have to improve. But my question is, you give 5 points for CDSU, how we are working, how we are disposing, how we are receptive, how we are joining hands with the industry, how our industry will be self-reliant, self-confident, and self-sufficient.
Well, I would say
I will give you one example of Modi ji. He gave in one speech, he gave 4 words. The number 1 word was the 4D formula. The 1 word was discovery. Our manufacturer should come with the new devices. That's why we can increase our export, the innovation. The second point is the deregulation. Deregulation means harmonization of the regulation. There should be no over-regulation. If you see previously, we used to give the Form 41, we used to give Form 10. Now we have cut down. What we are giving only? MD 15. How we are giving? On the perpetual validity. Initially, it used to give the 3 years, but you are not congratulating. You are not appreciating. Number 3, the demography. Demography hides 3 words. What 3 words? Availability, accessibility, and affordability. If you are, innovating a IVD kit, it should be made available. Nipah virus or Zika virus, it should be made available in all across country, in the coastal areas, in the Kerala. That is the duty of the regulator. The availability, the accessibility, the affordability. And 4th thing is, 4D is demand. If you are producing good quality of the product, it will be demanded everywhere. That is what we are thinking. We are thinking when a rickshaw puller, when a medical device is implanted to him, it should be safe. That is your objective. That is my objective. That is Satyendra objective. That is Sanjeev Kumar objective. The patient safety is the utmost priority. I will give you one example. One company was importing the ambulatory pump. And ambulatory pump is used to transfuse the insulin. And the pump regulator, it was not functioning properly. Now, if insulin goes more, then there is a hypoglycemia and the person can die. When we ask, What happened to our patient? No, sir, this is not under regulation. Today, I am telling you with my honesty that drug industry, they are growing up. Why? Because we are regulating for last 40 years. Medical device and IVDs, it is unregulated sector. And I congratulate you, HMD. You are growing like anything because of regulation. Because regulation means to SOPs, to minimize the error. You are exporting to more than 100 countries your disposable syringes because of the regulation. Congratulate to the regulators. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very encouraging words.
Yes.
From my side, let me tell you that.
But let me admire Rajiv ji. He is taking the lead. He is giving the points. What are the this more scope of improvement? What should be the amendment? I should appreciate him. He is giving more time to our stakeholders, to the manufacturers, and I should say he is the bridge between manufacturer and the regulator. So whenever you come next time or you should bring some manufacturers also. We want to learn from them also. What is their problem?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Definitely. At the next meeting, we will.
Second point. Yeah, second good point. Huh?
Yes. So I've been coming to DCF and your office for more than 25 years. And before we could have only one person or maximum two people who could even understand what is the word medical device all about.
Yes.
So until Mr. Mitra was there, it was maybe one person or two person. But after that, there is not one or two persons. That is the biggest change in CDSCO. Nearly every DDC, nearly every ADC at some period of time was given charge of medical devices. So Dr. Somani himself, Dr. Reddy himself, you and your colleagues, Dr. Sahu and the other DDCs, they all have charge for medical devices. So all are familiar with the issues required over there. This is the biggest thing I would say, that there has been understanding that devices are different than drugs and we need to treat them differently.
Correct.
The second change which I've seen over there is that CDSO itself has grown from being a central organization sitting in Delhi to become a zonal office. So this is again a second change I find over there, that it is being reaching out. The third big change I find after Dr. Somani has joined in is that there is a very collaborative working between CDSO and the state organizations. And I'm not talking about medical devices, I'm talking about generally.
Generally, yes.
Even for drugs, everything. So there is much more harmonized working and more collaborative working between state and center. Earlier, 10 years back, 15 years back, it was center versus state. And that attitude was not good for the country and harming the manufacturers also. So that collaborative attitude, that state people are able to understand what the center wants and vice versa, and that respect is given to the state, that is their role to play their part in the delegation game as a team player. That is very important. So this is the third part I find very good. From the manufacturer's point of view, I find the biggest ease of business that has been given to us is of the perpetual license going forward. And the fifth one for us has been the electronic filing. Yes. So the electronic system of applying, it had initial teething problems for filing, and the files have to be redone and all that. But any new system of our software, of course, it has teething problems, we understand. But yes, the electronic filing definitely makes everything in a structured manner. So the people can do it by themselves. They need not go in and waste time with the consultant sitting in some drug inspector's office, trying to understand from the inspector himself as to how to fill up the form, fill up the application, and make the file and submit the file. So now the time will be saved for the drug inspector. He will focus on regulation, not on hand-holding the manufacturer and consulting with them in these small issues of paper filing. And it eases the issue also for the manufacturers. These are the top 5 things which I find.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And it gives us energy. So today I will work up to 11. My boss DCI work up to 2 o'clock. So
We sincerely
yes.
hope that this does not bring risk in evaluation of the documents submitted by people.
Yeah, certainly not.
Ravikanji got your high fives from Rajiv ji.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful discussions and deliberations. And this is really a very encouraging initiative because it is like, as I said, like a Mahagatbandhan, like, it is a grand alliance between the regulators and conformity assessment bodies and standards body, because all the three are interaligned and have to work in a very integrated manner to meet the industry's requirements and to really impress upon all the stakeholders. Atmanirbhar Bharat has to inspire the ecosystem and the complete stakeholders, because this is one industry which was dependent on 80% imports all these years.
Yes.
And the focus now is to strengthen our competencies in the country, and the stakeholders' confidence is something, because they were all dependent on the imported products, and then, their confidence on the self-reliant India and the competencies of our domestic manufacturing system, the capabilities have to be showcased on an ongoing basis, on a regular basis. And we also need good technical regulations and technical standards focus in the country. At the end of the day, medical devices is all about precision engineering. And how do we win the confidence of all the stakeholders is very important. And for that, the industry needs the continuous support. The stakeholders need the continuous support of the Grand Alliance team. So we would like to thank Classic Computer Services, Pandya ji, for giving the right platform and an opportunity for all of us to assemble here to discuss and deliberate and to keep educating the marketplace about the dynamic changes that are happening. At least today we have learned what's happening at BIS, the kind of dynamic changes and the regulatory framework, how dynamic it has become, and on the credibility of the certifications systems and the product compliances infrastructure. So the country needs a very strong national quality infrastructure, and all these three wings have to work in close connect and to create that credible quality infrastructure, which will not only improve the confidence of the domestic industry, but the same manufacturers, they have to meet the global market requirements also. Atmanirbhar Bharat is to meet our country's requirements first, but the manufacturers do have market access across the globe, and they need to meet the global market requirements also. So we'll keep doing more and more sessions, and with the support of the industry. Industry needs ongoing engagement to understand more about standards and to understand more about regulations. Everything starts with regulation because it's a regulated industry, and it's the regulatory spec which is going to define the requirement of the standards, the national standards, international standards, the conformity assessment structure, the testing requirements. All of us as stakeholders, we will continue to work on these multiple initiatives. We would like to thank all the partners today, the industry support from IMED and from the sponsors and from various other industry bodies who have come forward to join hands. Thank you so much, Ravikant Sharma ji, for that vibrant presentation, and Mr. Jayanta Rai Chaudhary for really giving us rich insights about what's happening at BIS. And because all of us don't get to know about all these things unless otherwise you come and speak. And today our confidence, not only your energy, sir, our energy has gone up. It's like a booster dose. Listening to all these sessions, we'll keep doing more and more engagement, and it's an industry engagement, and we will live up to the Prime Minister's call, and we will live up to his dreams, and we will prove that as a country we are capable to supply to the global markets with the safe and the quality medical equipments and medical devices. We are capable and we can. So thank you so much. Thanks to each one of you for taking off your time from your routine and tough schedules. We know how tough it is, tough times the CDSCO now with all those vaccine project that's happening. So thank you once again. We'll keep calling all of you, sir, and Mr. Anil Jha Research for giving, and he was the one who created the structure and the schedule. He guided us, and he's a great mentor to all of us in the industry. And Rajiv ji, as usual, extended the support immediately when we have reached out to him. Thanks to each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.